Hi and welcome to today's video, and today we're going to be looking at this Ford KA brochure from 2001. So back in 2001, approximately March 2001 actually, I went on Ford's website at the time and I requested a copy of all of the brochures for their current range of cars, and they obliged. They sent me every brochure for the current range of vehicles which were available at the time. So starting with the Ford KA, or Ford Ka, or Ford Car, however you want to pronounce it, that's where we're going to be beginning with our journey. Now, the KA had been out since, I think, 1998, so I think the first ones were on an S registration, and by the time this brochure came out, they were around 4 years old or so. So 98, 99, 2000, yeah, 3 or 4 years old. Excuse me. So you're already beginning to see a number of special edition versions actually coming out. You still had your basic range, as we'll be looking at into shortly, but you were beginning to see a number of sort of interesting special edition models as well. Now, the KA was always sort of aimed as kind of a city car, or a second car for a lot of people, in the sub-Fiesta class. So it was based on the Fiesta platform, but it was aimed in the market segment technically below that of the Fiesta itself. Another interesting point is I've read somewhere that you couldn't actually get a tow bar for them. We'll actually look at that in a moment and see if you can get a tow bar in the accessories section at the back. You could have it as basic as you liked, as you can see in this particular example here, or you could have it as luxurious as you wanted. Well, obviously with air conditioning, electric windows and electric mirrors and a CD player. Now, it was originally intended to have a two-stroke engine. So Ford at the time were developing a two-stroke engine where you would have petrol going at one end, and almost sort of every 6,000 miles or some high mileage or so, you would have oil going in at the other, and then the two would be mixed at some point in the cycle, probably in the induction cycle. And what happened was that new European regulations came out at the time, which meant that this two-stroke idea had to be shelved permanently. There is a two-stroke Fiesta Mule that lives at the Haynes Motor Museum in Sparkford in the United Kingdom. So if you want to see what the engine looked like, there is actually one example down there. So what was the only engine they could fit in at the time that would accommodate the already signed off design of the KA? So in other words, the heavily sloping bonnet line. Well, it was the old Kent Crossflow, rebadged as the Endurer E for the Ford KA, available in 1.3 litre form, and for a number of years was the only option for the KA until the overhead cam units came out. I think the Sport KA had a single overhead cam 1.6 litre. I have seen people install 1.7 litre Puma engines into the engine bay without much issue, so something bigger than a 1.3 was able to fit, and something certainly a bit taller than the 1.3, so it could be done. Now, they were quite solid, safe little things when they first came out, obviously until rust took its toll. And a lot of them have unfortunately succumbed to rust. That was one of the big issues with the KA, was its rust protection. After sort of, in some cases, sort of 4 or 5 years, the fuel filler cap would be peppered with rust spots, rust on the sills, rust on the rear trailing arm mounting points. Where they could rust, they would rust, which is a real shame because they were fantastic cars to drive, and actually surprisingly comfortable to drive as well. I've had the pleasure of driving a KA3, which was the luxurious model at launch, and found that it was surprisingly capable and surprisingly comfortable in equal measure. It's just a shame that they tended to rust and expire prematurely, mainly due to the rust issues. Mechanicals were pretty much solid. I mean, it was proven mechanicals, which is excellent. Now, the CA collection was at this time, I think, the top of the range model. I'm not sure if it was a special edition model or not. I do remember they were only around for a limited time. And the thing about the KA was it was always a strict 4-seater rather than a 5-seater. If you wanted a 5-seater, you went up to the Fiesta. The interiors were always quite nice. The carpet was very cheap. It almost sort of felt like underlay rather than carpet. But they did have in the rear seat area a cup holder that had been moulded into the carpet, which I thought was quite cool. This version is one of the fully loaded versions, being the collection. So you do have your full range of switches, which include air conditioning, and you do have a CD radio, which is quite handy. You can also get a nice range of interior colours. I mean, this Pacific green colour looks rather nice. Obviously got pepper red, imperial blue, midnight black. I think that's midnight black that's being shown there. You also had the option for a Webasto style full-length sunroof, which was quite nice. And you also had the luxury KA, or luxury CA, which came with this rather nice leather interior, which was rather nice little pleasant interior. And you see what I mean about the cup holder, literally sort of moulded into that weird underlay carpet. Dashboard I always thought was a nice shape, a sort of sweeping control centre pod arrangement here and the 2 air vents in the centre. These air vents, quite an interesting design. They move around, up, down, etc. And then when you want to block them off, you just turn them off and they blank off, a bit like the air vents that you find in the older Citroen C3. Got the classic oval Ford clock, reminiscent of the clock that you found in a lot of Ford products back in the 70s and early 80s. We also have this whole section on flexibility. You can see there you've got roof rail options. We've also got the options of these rather nice little alloys, boot storage pack, scuff plates and carpet mats, alloy effect gear shift for thread fixing only and handbrake surround, and a radio navigation system, which is sort of like a well, basically a sat-nav solution. So it wasn't a full double DIN affair. It was just one of those sort of inbuilt single DIN affairs that you could get at the time. Blaupunkt did a number of sat-nav units which were a bit like that. Now we've got the range of radio cassette options. This being your mid-range option, that being your top of the range option, that being the depressing bottom of the range option, which always looked really super cheap. I never liked those. I mean, get a close look at it. It looks just terrible. Whereas the other 2 options actually look pretty okay, to be honest with you. Also, the Ford KA air conditioning. Standard on certain models and optional on others. And Ford's, at the time, enviable pioneering range of finance options. That was one thing that Ford were always very good at, was having a range of finance options so that you could lease, purchase, hire purchase, whatever you want, your Ford vehicle to suit your pocket. So here we have the specifications list, and I will pan slowly on these so you can obviously get a lot of information about the specs. A reasonably okay 60 brake horsepower, 105 newton meters of torque. Curb weights were pretty good as well, so that 1.3 did haul it along reasonably okay. You're looking at 871 kilograms, up to 935 kilograms at the most heaviest. You are looking at a reasonable 41 or 42 miles to the gallon, which was absolutely fine for the time. And 14.7 seconds 0 to 62, which was in line with the 1 litre K11 Micra, so, you know, not terrible. Not fast by any means, but absolutely fine for city driving. And a bit of motorway work if you wanted to venture out on the motorway and stay in the lane behind the lorries, only overtaken occasionally. It's fine, it will do it, it'll drive on the motorway. A little bit of information about the brakes, suspension and body. So basically it's Fiesta bolt-ons and other bits. Then we got the section about comfort and convenience, with air conditioning technically only being available on the luxury KA, although I think it may have been optional on the others. You can actually see for this year they've actually changed actually going against what I thought earlier, that these were special editions. They're actually not. They are the new range of trims. So it used to be KA or KA1, 2 and 3 with increasing increasing options on each, or increasing standard equipment on each grade. But it looks like for here it's actually KA, which is your base model, KA, which is your base, collection, Sun collection, and then luxury. Optional equipment, you could really spec up any of them to be like any of the others. I mean, you could have air conditioning on your base KA and nothing else, which would be quite an interesting feature. You could have the convenience option pack, so you could have your heated front screen. The style pack, so you've got your 6-spoke alloy wheels. Reflex pack, there's 2 different grades, which actually gives you ABS on the second pack. And then your various audio packages, which you could obviously sort of specify. And then obviously metallic paint and all of that sort of good stuff. Here is the body colour and trim combinations that you could have. The range of wheels that you could also have. And comparison of choice here of what you could actually get. All models came with power steering. And here is your range of trims that you could have. So light cypress leather and midnight black leather on the luxury KA, and aqua cascade trim I think on everything else. Now, one thing I always liked about the KA is they came in a huge range of colours. I mean, you could have your various reds, pepper red being quite a nice colour, various blue shades, various green shades, and then obviously down to your silvers and blacks. And that's something you don't necessarily see much anymore, is a manufacturer offering such a range of colours for really sort of such a small mass market vehicle. So yeah, I mean, they were a very colourful car. They did sort of come in a range of sort of subdued and somewhat loud colours. I think there was a Millennium edition that you could get in a sort of a nice bright yellow shade, which was particularly nice. Favourites for me, unusually, I like pepper red. I think that's a really nice colour, suits the car well. You can also see on these later versions they have the body coloured front and rear bumpers rather than this sort of style. Obviously the base KA does come with that sort of style, but on earlier KAs, all models regardless of grade had this sort of blackened bumper, rear, front and back finish. Sorry, front and back finish, etc. Of the blues, rather like that light sapphire and the dark true blue. Of the greens, I'll be honest, I like all the greens, but I especially like the Pacific green metallic. And silver and black goes without saying, I'd quite happily have either of those. And there we go, that actually brings us to the end of this particular quick video. If you found this interesting, don't forget to hit the like button, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you again very soon. Take care, and thanks for watching.